All right, guys. So this episode of Democrats getting exposed for being absolutely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, batshit crazy. We got to talk about the state of Washington's 3rd district race between America First Republican Joe Kent and Democrat Marie Perez. And they had a debate about the whole transgender issue. And this is important in Washington because this state essentially allows minors to undergo gender-affirming healthcare without parental consent. Insurers must pay for it, right? They must cover the so-called gender-affirming healthcare.
A new law in Washington state allows castration of teenagers without parental consent. Something that's unimaginable even 18 months ago is now the law. Jason Rance is a Seattle radio host. He's watched this happen. In fact, he broke this story. He joins us tonight. Jason, thanks a lot for digging this up and telling us about it. So give us the outline of this law.
Yeah, so it's actually a combination of 3 laws. Right now, if you're as young as 13 years old, you can start the process of gender reassignment and not have to tell your parents. Now, the first law gives 13 to 17-year-olds the right to mental health treatment without parental consent. The second law forces insurance companies to cover gender dysmorphia or so-called gender-affirming care for that same age group, 13 to 17 years old. It also, however, mandates that insurance providers exclusively communicate with the teen patient, not the policyholder, who in this case would be the parent, although they still have to pay for it. But now there's this new law that went into effect 11 days ago that mandates all new health plans have to cover gender-affirming care, including cosmetic surgeries that previously were denied. So now in totality, the treatment for these kids can include everything from puberty blockers to speech therapy, but potentially, obviously, tracheal shaves, so-called top surgery where the breast tissue is removed, and then various genital surgeries. And none of this has to be approved by the parent.
So Washington State has become one of these states that, you know, if you are a child experiencing gender dysphoria and you really want to undergo some of these chemical and surgical treatments, aka castration, you can do it, right? Even without parental consent. So this question right here that was asked in the debate to the Democrat Marie Perez in regards to whether or not she supports allowing kids to undergo these surgical and chemical procedures, and as well as being asked about the issue of biological girls competing against biological boys in sports, really does reveal why the Democrat Party is losing on these issues. Take a look.
No from you, Marie, if you support gender-affirming care and abortion up to 38 weeks. It's a simple yes or no. Will you answer the people of the 3rd District tonight if you support abortion up to 38 weeks and gender-affirming care for minors under the age of 18?
So, I mean, the definition of gender...
It's a yes or no question.
That is a nuanced
Do you support gender-affirming care for children under the age of 18? Yes or no?
You've asked the question, let's let her answer it.
I need to know what you mean by that.
Puberty blockers, sterilization.
That is the choice of a family to make.
Yes.
It's not the role of the government. If it's what the family believes in, the government should not be in everyone's life for every issue.
Do you support biological males competing in biological female sports?
I think that is it's complicated. It depends. When do they transition? What are their hormone levels? I mean, when you really look at athletes have all different natural hormone levels. So it is a nuanced question.
So yes, you do support that?
It depends on the scenario.
But we're faced with situations where it's either a yes or no. Either the biological male competes or the biological male does not compete with women. And so we have to make that decision.
Yeah, I don't think you're understanding the nuance of these issues.
Yeah, so 538 has America First Republican Joe Kent clearly in the lead to win this race. I mean, it looks like he has like a 98% chance. 98 and 100, right? if the election was held that many times. That's how many times they win. You mean 98 times out of 100. So I'm just saying, this does not look good for the Democrat, and obviously you guys can see why, because even on questions that are easy layups, Democrats just fail because their policies are so radical. Okay, let's start with the question of gender affirming care, okay, for minors, or so-called gender affirming care, aka gender castration, because that's actually what it is. Again, the simple answer to that question is no, I do not support that for minors. But instead, this Democrat defaults to the same thing that they do on abortion. I believe she actually was asked about abortion as well too, which is to take this stance of, well, I'm not for big government, right? I'm not for big government. The government should be in every aspect of our lives, right? As if that's a gotcha. See, we got you, conservatives. The government should not be in every aspect of our lives. I'm against big government like you guys claim that you are. Therefore, you should agree with me on this issue. But what these politically ignorant progressive / Democrats don't understand about conservatives is that we're not libertarians, right? We support more government regulation, specifically when it comes to moral issues, and especially when it comes to children, than a true libertarian would. Okay? See, that's what they understand. They get conservatism and libertarianism mixed up. They're not the same thing. Conservatives definitely are pro government regulation, especially when it comes to these issues. When we're talking about children, you'll be hard pressed to find a conservative that believes that children, for example, should be allowed to consume adult content, or that children should be allowed to drink, right? That we should lower the drinking age, or that children should be allowed to do illicit drugs. You're not going to find a ton of conservatives saying that we should allow children to do that in the name of small government. Again, conservatives do believe in, limited government. However, they believe in more government than libertarians. Okay, that doesn't mean that we're going to allow the wild, wild west, especially for children. But again, she's using that answer to deflect away from the fact that her position is morally indefensible. Honestly, and is also politically indefensible, because when it comes to the state of Washington, is actually very important, because this state allows children to get these procedures or these treatments without parental consent. So they don't necessarily have to go through their parents. So it's not even a family decision. This is not a decision that's being made with their parents. Nope, because of the woke progressives in the state of Washington, this decision can just be made by the child, right? 13, 14, 15 years old. Oh, I feel like I'm, the opposite sex, right? I don't feel like I'm in, the right body. You can just go to the doctor as long as you're insured. Hey, can't really deny the child, right? Can't really stop the child if they really want to go through with it. Again, it's a shame. It's a shame. This is what progressives and Democrats believe. And of course, we got the question about biological men and women competing against each other in sports, which again is a no-brainer. The answer to that question is no. I do not support that, because that is unfair. Democrats want to get in this conversation about nuance. Well, what are the hormone levels of the child and how long they've been and it's like, no. What you don't understand is that we don't want any children transitioning. So theoretically, there should not be any children that are undergoing any types of hormones, any treatment. They should not be going through any medical transitions, in which there should be a conversation about nuance in regards to whether or not they should be allowed to compete against people of the opposite biological sex, because they shouldn't be transitioning at all, right? Because again, the left, they make arguments that, well, if they start transitioning before puberty and blah, 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 and it's like, no, well, they shouldn't be transitioning before puberty. None of that should be happening. Again, this issue that we have when it comes to transitioning kids, okay, and, biological men and women competing against each other in sports, it is an issue that we only have because our society has lost a sense of morality and common sense. That's the only reason we have these issues. And Democrats are the party of immorality, depravity, and being against common sense, which that's exactly what wokeness is. Okay? Wokeness is the antithesis of common sense. And as you can see here, Democrats, they struggle when asked these questions because they're so radical on these issues. The answer to the question is no, that's not a radical position. That's a common sense position. That's a position that most Americans agree with. Again, these people will tell you, they'll always tell you, well, most Americans agree with universal health care. But then when it comes to issues like this, what happened to, well, most Americans agree with, right? Because you seem to use that every time you want to push your big government economic policies. But when it comes to some of these common sense social issues, what the American people agree with kind of goes out the window. I don't really care what they agree with, right? I don't care what they agree with. Again, absolutely amazing stuff. But again, this is why they're losing. It's layups like this that Democrats just continuously miss because their party has went off a ledge. It's really that simple. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.